What a great day this is. What a great day this is. It is so, so good to finally be here and be with all of you. Quite a lot had to happen in order for me to get here. And so I send greetings from my family in Georgia. There are many of them. I have a mother who is still alive, two younger sisters who are within a 15-minute drive of me in different directions. My mother has 11 brothers and sisters. They are all married. They all have children, and some of those children have children. And so as you can imagine, the family reunions are a little bit wild. And I managed to talk to almost all of them before I got here. And they're all very excited for me to be here. And some a little jealous, but we won't talk about that. I also send greetings from dear ones in the leadership of Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, who sent me off eagerly and well to be with you fully over this next couple of months. I had a moment of worry. I was like, what are they going to think about this? And they were like, are you kidding? If you say no to this, we're going to be really mad at you. Right. So I give thanks to them as well. This is also good for two additional reasons. First, what we're doing here, I think of it as a conversation. One we get to have with one another for the remainder of our time together. This moment doesn't happen just because I happen to be here as your minister for the next couple of months. It happens because we all show up and make this moment what it can be, right? And so I'm deeply, deeply grateful for that. But second, when there's an exchange like the one that we are having already, and like we will continue to have with one another, something changes in us. And it changes the room, right? That's the hope anyway. Our hearts might beat a little bit faster, or our brains might perk up with activity in a different kind of way. What we hope for ourselves and one another may shift. When you respond to me, either in the context of Sunday morning worship or at times in between, it informs how I respond to you and informs what matters to me. It is a powerful and beautiful thing, this relationship, this connection, this conversation, and I do not take it for granted. I shared with the music ministry team before all of us were here that parish ministry is near and dear to my heart, and I have not physically been in a place with actual people for a very long time, and so I feel deeply blessed by the opportunity, and I'm really, really glad that we get to be in this together. In the spirit of our theme for the month of July, which is adventure, thank you for sharing that, Miss Carol, I thought I might share two stories with you today, a kind of introduction, if you will. Both of these stories are relative to how I made it here in this very spot. And all of them speak to my longtime favorite of our principles, the fourth principle. Does anyone know what the fourth principle is? I'm not trying to test anybody. I promise. There'll be a quiz. Yes, I heard it. That's right. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Reverend Paige Getty, who some of you may know, she's actually the minister in Columbia, Maryland. She reminds us in the 7 principles in word and worship that Unitarian Universalism makes sacred the right and responsibility to engage in this free and responsible quest as an act of religious devotion. She calls it religious devotion. Institutionally, we have left open the questions of what truth and meaning are, acknowledging that mindful people will, in every age, discover new insights about ourselves and about one another. Now, growing up in central Georgia, which is where I grew up, I knew nothing of any of this as a child. I knew nothing of Unitarian Universalism. Most of the people around me claimed some form of Baptist, okay? It's just, that is the truth. From primitive Baptist to progressive, you name it. It ran the gamut. What I did know was that there were important moments to be on the lookout for. Situations and people who could mean something special to me, either in the moment or somewhere down the road. I found myself looking for them as a kid all the time. Honestly, generally dissatisfied with what I found in the world, or unimpressed with how the world often found me, right? Some of us may know what it's like to constantly be in search of something good and hopeful, and often not finding what we hope to find. And one such moment came every time I went to visit my grandmother, Wileen. There's a reason why we've been focusing on grandmothers this morning. We would visit this remarkable human, my mom's mother, at least twice a year, usually 3 or 4 times a year. And between baking 10 to 15 pies and cakes for whatever the special Sunday service was, and actually being in church, us kids would find grandmother sitting in silent reflection while she slowly rocked in her porch swing. She had this porch swing, this very big porch that she would sit in all the time. Now, this was South Georgia. It was hot, and it was hot most of the time. So she was there all the time, all the time. It was the place she held court, really. If you had anything to talk about with her or hope to learn from her, you'd sit in one of the other chairs on the porch and try to muddle your way through whatever it is that you wanted to talk to her about, or try and understand whatever wisdom she was trying to impart on us. One thing us kids never did was sit with her on that porch swing. We just didn't do it. And nobody said don't do it. That was the funny thing. Nobody ever said don't actually sit on that porch swing with your grandmother. There was just this, do you know what I'm talking about? Some of you know what I mean. You just kind of know what the rule is and you follow it, and you don't ever ask any questions. This is a problem. We need to talk about this more in our society. But that is the thing. But also she seemed too regal and honestly too fragile all at the same time to get too close to her. So we didn't. Something told me one day that I should do the unfathomable thing and sit right down next to her on that porch swing, just to see what would happen. I liked taking risks back then. And even though it took me a few visits, it honestly took me maybe 2 visits after I had this realization that I actually made my way there on one sunny afternoon in the summertime. And when I did, something really magical happened that has stayed with me all the days of my life. She looked down at me, offered a hearty laugh like Granny did in our story, and laid the following words on my soul. She asked me, "Do you love yourself, baby?" I think so, I said. Then she said, "You know, the best way to love God is to love yourself, love the people around you, and love the earth." That's it. This is a woman who would be in church 3-4 times a week. Primitive Baptist church. Okay? She didn't quote me a Bible verse. She didn't proselytize at me. She said that one sentence. The best way to love God is to love yourself, love the people around you, and love the earth. This Black woman whose only foundation of goodness in the world we're still living in long after her death was God and the little church she'd been a member of for 50 years when she said that to me. So what she told me was deeply personal, spiritually grounded, and filled with a whole lot of care. And because it was all of those things, I believed her. And it stuck with me. It stuck. It served as the grounding for my own life journey, helped me connect to climate justice as a young person in a way that I probably would not have had she not said those words, right? It grounded me in a faith that I didn't fully understand, but trusted because I trusted her. It was the basis, if you can believe it or not, for my statement of faith in seminary years later, and still is to this day. I am certain Grandmother Wileen had no idea just how universalist her statement was. And I'm clear that Unitarian Universalism made sense to me because of it. All because I made a decision to sit down next to her on that porch swing that day. That's all it took. A statement of faith that I carry with me now in my late 40s. I heard when I was 10, because I made a decision to sit on that porch swing with her. Powerful stuff. I want to invite all of us to think for a moment about one thing, one moment that was life-changing in a spirited, spiritually grounded, caring, loving way. And just hold that, whatever it is. But don't just hold it, hold on to it. It can hold us and carry us and keep us in ways that we don't even imagine sometimes. The second story, in a more direct way, led me here. Years after that moment, approaching the spring of 2017, I had a bit of a crisis in ministry. I had served 3 UU communities at that point, 2 in Boston and 1 in Boston and 1 in Raleigh, North Carolina. My experiences at all 3 had been a mix of really life-changing work, both for me and the communities I served, and of deep, soul-crushing moments with people and systems, honestly, that I'd thought better of, right? I would like for the levels of racism and transphobia in UU spaces to be unconscionable and surprising. But they're not. They're not surprising at all. And I had, after 3 years of active, engaged UU ministry, experienced the intense weight of these problems. I was exhausted, and I had barely gotten started. And so, sitting in the hot sun in California for a dear friend's installation, no less, I decided that I was done. That my worth was more important than anything I thought I might be called to. Unless something really different is possible for me, I said, I am no longer serving predominantly white congregations in Unitarian Universalism or anywhere else. Felt plain enough. I know some of you are thinking, but wait a minute. Hold on a second. What are you doing? How'd you get here again? Who called you? Did they know that story? But you see, Reverend Getty also put it this way in her description and understanding of the fourth principle. If we are to actively affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, we must be deliberate and diligent in our living. Diligent and deliberate in our living. As persons of faith, we accept responsibility for our own actions. We are honest about our assumptions and biases and are at times open to the truth and meaning that life holds out for us. In response, she says, we are willing to act on that truth and meaning, to evolve in word and deed, and to live that conviction to change when change is necessary. Unquote. Not 3 weeks after my declaration, I received a phone call from someone I barely knew. Her name was Lena Catherine Gardner, and she was one of the members of the organizing collective for Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. I had no real idea what this was or why she was calling me. It turns out that a mutual friend and colleague had suggested that she give me a call to see what I was up to in life, in ministry, and asked if I'd consider joining the collective. A place where clear and concrete support and care of Black UUs really existed. And this place is asking me to join them? Right after I'd proclaimed to all the gods, ancestors, and universe that I was leaving. But I was leaving, ready to go. Fine. Fine. That's fine. I hear you. I don't understand this, and I don't know what it will mean, but because the wind is clearly moving in a direction that I've been offered the opportunity to notice. I was offered an opportunity to notice something different. I cannot and will not pretend that I didn't notice it. And within only a few months of that phone call, I and others were organizing a spiritual care program for Blue, including the daily affirmations that I know some of you in the room probably are receiving, regularly offered pastoral care and monthly worship. That is in full operation all to this day. Within a year of that phone call, I was organizing Blue's first revival in Kansas City, Missouri, where over 100 Black UUs gathered for learning, connection, and spiritual renewal. Within 2.5 years of that phone call, we were preparing for the Harper Jordan Memorial Symposium, a glorious experience that helped UUs all over our movement come to a fuller understanding that Unitarian Universalism that centers Blackness not only exists, but is saving lives and keeping people connected to our faith in ways that they could not and would not be otherwise. We've navigated helping folks who aren't Black understand the value of Black sacred space. And we're continually working to ensure that for people on the margins of race and ethnicity in particular, trauma isn't a necessary element of our Unitarian Universalism. And life in ministry has been deeply affirming, powerful, and a beacon of my life. My faith in Unitarian Universalism was restored by that ministry. I've come to know the possibilities of Unitarian Universalism, a faith in a place where we are loved and called to be free and called to be out in the world and in here doing the work of justice. That is, if we're able to get out of our own way enough to ensure that truth for all of us. As you wade through all the transitions that you've experienced and are experiencing as a community, as we live in a world that is not that different from the one my grandmother knew, this is my hope for all of you, too. That your work and your ministry are affirming for all of you, that there is possibility for all of you, not just as individuals with your own ideas and beliefs, but as a body of seekers who believe in the power of story and justice and life that has meaning beyond what may seem merely comfortable. That you will continue to exist in this great adventure of meaning making and move through it with grace and with love, that you may seek and be found in the best possible ways. And my deep gratitude is that I get to join you in it, even if only for a little while. Thank you for that. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Amen. Ashe. And blessed be.